Hi, Neil Lazarus here. How are you doing? And this is another podcast. Today and this week is Sukkot in Israel. Everything is very quiet here. Everyone is on holiday. Or if they are working, they're not really. They're kind of pretending, which is really what's happening in Israel. I love Sukkot because it's that week where everybody goes out. The religious who wouldn't go out if it's, on a Shabbat or a Yom Tov, are out with their kids. Jerusalem Zoo is absolutely packed with kids and everyone is out and about. But I haven't forgotten you, and although Am Yisrael, the people of Israel, is on holiday, I thought I would update you with some of the politics, as always, which is going on in the Middle East. A lot happening, not a lot making the international news. All of the American press is so busy with Trump, the United Nations, investigations, all that. Let's go to the Middle East. Let's talk about the Middle East. And I think the headline, and perhaps a game changer this week, was what happened as a result of an Israeli bombing in Syria. Hold on, whoa. Israel bombing Syria? That you know that Israel bombs, or is reported, if we're going to be official, reported to bomb targets in Syria which are receiving weaponry from Iran. Remember, Iran is seeking to build its bases in Iran. I think actually that's an understatement. They're trying to turn an ally into a proxy. And Israel has, according to many sources, bombed over 200 times Syria since 2017. So, the recent bombing was nothing unusual. The trouble was what resulted from it. In the area of Latvia, Israel was bombing sites which were receiving weaponry from Iran to Hezbollah. As a result, the Syrians fire anti-aircraft fire at the Israelis, and they bring down a Russian plane. A little bit awkward. Remember, the Russians are supporting the Syrian regime and keeping it in power, and they just shot down a plane, killing some of its members. Russia very quickly blames Israel, despite Israel sending some serious Air Force delegates to explain what happened, saying it wasn't us, here are the pictures, here's intelligence. Russia didn't want to know. Russia is now blaming Israel, and as a result is sending S300 missiles over to Syria. Now, I remind you that this threat has been there before. It's nothing new, but this time it looks like they may well do it. What's the S300, I hear you ask? I don't actually hear you ask. That's kind of a rhetorical thing they say when speaking to yourself and a microphone. But the reality is, what is the S300? The S300 is a serious form of weaponry. What they're bringing in is this weaponry, which is anti-aircraft, and also the means to jam the radar systems of Israeli planes flying over Syria. Not good, very not good. That was very Trumpite, very not good. But at the same time, not... How can I put it? It doesn't prevent Israel from attacking. Look, there are other means by which Israel can defend itself. That includes the use of tomahawk weapons from the sea and other forms of long-range weaponry which could be fired at targets if need be, pretty accurately. Israel has also been practicing for this scenario in Cyprus. Shh, don't tell anyone, so we are told by foreign sources. But it just makes the flying a little bit more hairy, but not impossible to attack important sites. So it's not just go in, hit the sites you need, and then get out again. It makes life certainly much more complicated than that. Will, at the end of the day, this go ahead? There's still room for some form of negotiation, but I think you have to see it and understand it within the wider context of a post-war Syria. I remind you, I've said it before, I'll say it again. What we are really looking at is how Syria will look after the war. Iran is interested, Israel is interested, Syria is interested, Saudi Arabia is interested, and of course, Turkey. you have something like 5 proxy wars being fought in Syria, and now the new lines are being defined. I think that's the interest of Russia, and I remind you that Russian interests are not necessarily Iranian interests. Russia is interested in a stable regime, access to the Mediterranean, and being able to have stability. Iran is much more interested in actually really having a proxy and controlling it. So much so that they're also investing in the rebuilding and the infrastructure of Syria today. So that's, I think, a very important headline to watch for. Why I bring it to your attention is it's not out there as like, yo, major in the international press. Here in Israel, it's a big story. I think if we contrast it, we should contrast it with the following, which is the decision by the Labour Party in Britain, who, as you know, have been saying, we're not anti-Semitic, we have no problem with Jews, we just don't like Israel. I love that. But what they're saying now in their conference, with a whole lot of Palestinian flags, is that they would, one, recognise an independent Palestine if they came into power, and second of all, stop selling arms to to stop selling arms to Israel. Britain would stop selling arms to Israel under a Corbyn government. I mean, I don't know if you get this, right? But this is really makes me angry. You've got major long-range weaponry coming into Syria aimed at Israel, yet the Corbynites, the radical left, are saying, no, hey, Israel doesn't have a right to protect itself. Israel not having a right to protect itself, or a government deciding, having it decided for it what it can protect itself from, that's not sovereignty. That's really problematic. But hey, the Labour Party under the Corbyn government certainly doesn't seem to disappoint me. Having said that, and again, the dilemma I always have is some of the ideas they have domestically are quite interesting. And certainly the May government, with the whole collapse of her plan for Brexit, seems to be on its last legs. So again, when I speak to American audiences, this debate between foreign policy and domestic policy always comes up. And I think here we're seeing it for the first time also in Britain. So that's all 2 major big stories which we can see developing. Meanwhile, we've got into crazy land a little bit in Gaza. If you've noticed, we are now seeing an increased violence on the Gaza Strip, with more people being killed on a weekly basis, especially on a Friday. What's going on there is a continuation of what we have seen in weeks gone by. Israel has got itself trapped into an argument between Fatah and Hamas. Fatah is literally going ballistic, if you excuse the pun, that there's a possibility that Israel and Hamas could have an independent agreement without it in the picture. So what we're seeing in many ways, I would argue, is that the ability to get to some form of agreement with Hamas is actually being jeopardized by Fatah. Fatah is outdoing Hamas in its demands. Work that one out. Remember, Fatah were the partners that Israel talked to under the Rabin government, were part of the Oslo Accords, and now we've seen they seem to be more anxious to keep control of their power, their ability to stand as the spokesman of all Palestinian people, even though Abu Mazen daren't go into Gaza, rather than stop their own people being killed. But that subtlety is between you and me, my friends. It's lost on the those people who wave Palestinian flags without understanding what it stands for, or just sees only Arabs as bad and Israelis as good, or vice versa. These podcasts are for people who want complexity, and so are my seminars, which is why when I do my seminars, I so much enjoy upsetting everybody. In other words, anyone who thinks they understand what's going on, by the time they leave a seminar of mine, is more confused. Sometimes that confusion is anger. So, that's what I find amusing. When I do one seminar in the morning, someone left-wing would say I'm right-wing. and in the afternoon, someone who's right-wing say I'm left-wing. What I need you to do is to have the information, the facts, to make your own decision and show the complexity of some of the choices which are facing Israel today. Okay, I'm going to do an experiment here for those of you who are listening. And by the way, I'm totally impressed by the number of people who actually listen to these podcasts. People come up to me and go, yeah, love it, love it, love it. Some people say it should be longer. Some people say, no, I like the 15-minute format. I can fit it in during a quick drive somewhere. Happy to get your feedback, what you want to know. I've also been debating a little bit about should there be more interviews. I'm going to be interviewing a few interesting people in the weeks to come, especially on the issue of the destruction of Bedouin villages in the E1 area, which is going to be very newsworthy on October the 1st, where Israel has called for the destruction of a Bedouin village there. So I'm going to be interviewing a couple of people there. My questions I have are, one, are you more interested in interviews? Are you more interested in this approach? Happy to get your feedback on it. Now, I want to do an experiment, and you'll excuse me. I feel if you're listening to my podcast, you're a part of a wider family of people who want to get more information, share ideas with me. And by the way, I've learned a lot from some of the articles you've sent me. Keep sending them. I read them all. You can get me on WhatsApp. You can get me on via my website, awesomeseminars.com. I'm on Twitter, the handle is Awesome Seminars. I am on Snapchat, Awesome Seminars. All of those things, Facebook, obviously. By the way, if you try to be a friend of mine and it says he's got too many friends, go to the page. Neil Lazarus at Awesome Seminars. So here's the favor I have to ask you, my dear listeners. I'm going to do a test. This is something I want to build into a seminar of mine, but I need to test it. So I'm going to test it, and it works on a podcast. So what I want you to do, take 30 seconds, and at the end, I'm going to ask you to send me your answer of the last two questions. Okay? You ready? This is it. People said to me this isn't going to work on a podcast, but I know you're going to send me your answers, right? So here they are. Listen to the questions, answer them in your head. When I say these are the last two, send me your answers. Question number 1. Say it out loud. Don't worry, you can talk to yourself out loud. You're in a gym, you're in the car, no one else is there, right? 1. What day is Christmas? 2. What number is between 1 and 3? Question number 3. What are hamburgers made of? What are hamburgers made of? What side of the road do they drive on in Europe? And this is what I need you to send me. 1, the first colour that comes into your head, and 2, a tool, T-O-O-L, a tool. First colour and the first tool you think of. That's all I need to know, those last two things. Thank you guys for helping me develop a new program on persuasion and influence and communication skills. We're adapting some new wild ideas. Needed to test that on someone. We have a few thousand listeners now, so I thought I'd try that on you. That's a quick update. Those are the big stories. Russia, missiles. Listen to that. That's the biggie, I think. As well as the stalemate in Gaza because of Fatah. Last thing, I'm going to be on the road. I am definitely going to be in the United Kingdom from the 11th of November for a week. And prior to that, I am going to be in the United States and Canada. If you want to bring me to speak, drop me a line today, now, when you finish, because I have about 3 dates left. That is all. Okay? 1 in Canada, I think 1 or 2 in the States, and I think there's 1 or 2, that's maybe a bit more than 2 or 3, in the UK. So There are a few dates. Let me know. I'm happy to come. Speak to your schools, universities, organizations, churches, etc. Chag Sameach. Have a great Sukkot wherever you are, and we'll speak again soon.